What's up, Mega Moviegoers? This is Mega Mario, and this is...
Valiant Karen.
And this is our review of Hardcore Henry.
Just bounce to this.
Alright, Karen, let's get right to it. Let's get right to our non-spoiler review of Hardcore Henry. One of the things I want to kind of touch upon with Hardcore Henry, Karen, is first of all, let's tackle the effects of it. You know, was it creative? Talk a little bit about how it played out. At some points it kind of plays out like a video game. Talk about the plot of the movie, and talk about kind of the acting of it. It's kind of weird because Hardcore Henry doesn't really have a leading man. So, for a certain extent, it's kind of the motion capture of the camera, essentially.
Right.
If you're the audience, you can kind of say that you're Hardcore Henry, because obviously it's coming from that point of view. And sometimes that effect does play out pretty good. So let's talk about that a little bit. There are some times when it does kind of feel like you're playing a video game. It kind of feels like you are Hardcore Henry as the audience. And I give the filmmakers credit for that because it's a really good effect. What did you think? How did the movie play out to you? Did it play out like a video game? Did it play out like something unique, like you'd never seen? How did it come across to you?
The movie is not a masterpiece like what I thought it was going to be, but it does feel like you are playing a video game. So that's what I thought. What did you think?
I like the effects of it at times. Now we gotta kind of go over a couple steps here. We gotta go over a couple facts here that Hardcore Henry was actually shot strictly on a GoPro Hero 3 camera, which is pretty cool, and they rigged up this. They had a special rig for the actual actors that obviously wore this. So I thought it'd be more shaky than it really was.
True.
There were some scenes where it was super shaky and it was a little hard to follow along, but for the most part, they did a really good job of making it stable and having pretty cool effects with it. There's a scene, I think it's in the trailer, so it's not really a spoiler, where he kind of tosses the knife, grabs it, and throws it at one of the enemy soldiers. Yeah, so definitely really cool effects. I think before we went to go see the movie, you were telling me that you did some research and you found out a little bit more about the camera that they used.
Yeah.
You found out a little bit more about how they kind of managed to work it with the GoPro Hero.
Yeah, the GoPro was specifically engineered towards this movie, and how it's cool how they really put it on the face, because it looks like 10 different holes are literally like on the camera, and it looks like those can be like actual guns itself, like just shooting stuff. But it was really cool. It was black, and they actually had 8 to 10 different stuntmen to play Henry, so it wasn't one guy or two guys who even did it. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think they had to do that because there were some really cool stunts, and that was really cool to witness that from a first-person perspective. Some of the cool stunts that they did. You can see it in some of the trailers where they're kind of running across a bridge, right, and you're right there in the middle of the action. So that was really cool.
That was.
So to kind of talk about the video game pacing a little bit more, Karen, I think that if you're a gamer, you probably appreciate it, but I think if you're a true gamer, you're going to say to yourself, I'm just going to go play the game. I'm just going to go play whatever first-person action shooter that I like to play, or whatever the game that I like. I could be wrong. There could be gamers that are like, wow, this is really cool. I like it. It's next level. It's something different. It's playing itself out for me. And I think if you're not a gamer, I think you're going to fall into two camps. First camp is, I like it because it is kind of like a video game. It's got that pacing and it's playing itself out for me in the form of a movie, which is cool. Or there's going to be people on another side of the camp that say, I really don't like this kind of storytelling. I really don't like this kind of effect or camera work, and I'm just not liking it at all. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks as the reviews come out from the fans.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see. I definitely want to keep an eye on this, because one of the reasons that I thought Hardcore Henry was interesting is I wanted to see how successful it would be in doing what it did.
Yeah.
And I think it does have a really good pacing to it. It's as far as action.
The action was awesome.
It's got a good pacing as far as action goes. Only part is that because of that fast pace, it kind of hurt the story.
It did.
Which is what we're going to talk about next. So, covering the plot of Hardcore Henry, at sometimes there is a plot, but it kind of all ties itself together towards the end. So, during the middle of the movie, you're just kind of in the outs of everything, and things are just happening. And I think at one point you leaned over to me and you said, these things are just coming out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah.
And literally, at this happened. Literally, the things that he's going through just kind of pop out of nowhere, and you're like, how is this happening? And you start kind of formulating theories and thoughts in your mind. So that's kind of cool in the sense that the action was fast-paced, and it didn't have to... It never really stopped at some point. The action was fast-paced, and it didn't have to do a lot of building up of characters or things of that nature. So if you like action, you're going to like Hardcore Henry.
Right.
If you like storytelling and plot building and getting to know the characters, probably not going to like it as much.
Right.
So if you go see it, you got to go with that mindset.
And we expected that, to be honest with you, from seeing the trailers. But there, like you said, there is no story. There's not a lot of mystery, and the movie is like right there in your face. You know, with the first action shooting, it wasn't like holding anything back. You know, which I thought was good, but like you said, it does hurt the story and the movie.
So Karen, I think something everybody wants to know about this review is, how is the movement of the camera? How is all the motion? How is that going to affect your movie watching experience of Hardcore Henry? I think it's fair to say that if you get motion sickness pretty easy, you don't want to go see Hardcore Henry. It's not a movie for you. You're not going to enjoy it. You're going to get motion sickness. Don't put yourself through it. So I know even for me, I don't really get motion sickness very much. But towards the end, I was starting to develop a headache, and it was starting to get a little hard for me to watch. But in fairness, it could have been my medium icy Coke that did it to me. So
maybe.
So I don't know, but that's just how that's just how it went for me. What about you?
Yeah, no. For this movie, thank goodness I didn't get sick. I don't easily get motion sickness anyway. But if you saw movies like Cloverfield and you got sick for that, don't see this movie, because then this movie is not for you. But, and I was surprised that I could still eat the popcorn and soda with all the blood and violence and decapitations that we saw. But,
yeah, we should probably mention that. There is a lot of violence in the movie. So, again, if you've got a queasy stomach, it's a hard R. It's a hard R.
Yeah.
And I know we were talking about Deadpool for a little bit as we left the theater. I think Deadpool wasn't that bad of a movie. I don't think it had a lot of really bad stuff. I think it had a nice story.
Exactly.
It was funny. It was charming. And you could follow things along. This is not that kind of movie.
Right. Deadpool was like, you got your action, you got your comedy, yeah, you got your violence, but everything was served with a purpose in that film. Here, not so much.
Right. Here, sometimes it feels like they're just doing action for the sake of action. I have to agree with you on that. You know, we were talking about this too on the way back, that one of the critics, or at least one of the advertisements they put on the trailer said it's like Kingsman and another movie had like a hybrid. It was like a hybrid of that, but I didn't really see any Kingsman in it either.
Yeah. No, I did not see the Kingsmans, unless maybe the part in the Kingsman where you see a lot of blood, but...
Right, there's some times where it's like the scene is just an ultraviolet scene, and you just basically see a lot of mass killing and stuff like that.
Right.
So there are scenes like that, but to me it's not the same.
Right, I agree with you on that.
So we brought up other movies, Karen. For example, we brought up Cloverfield, you brought up Chronicle. Well, we didn't bring up Chronicle, but those are some movies that were shot or have first-person sequences or have a lot of camera movement and things like that.
Right.
I think Hardcore Henry is more than that. I think, at least in Cloverfield, from what I remember, there were some scenes that when the monster is kind of going around the city doing its thing.
Spoiler alert.
When they're going around the city doing its thing, the camera gives you time to reset yourself. There's only certain scenes where it's like intense. In Hardcore Henry, it's like that pretty much through the whole entire movie.
Exactly, definitely. Do you think it gives you time to breathe, or...?
Sometimes it gives you time to breathe. We'll talk about that in our spoiler review, which we're going to do after. This is our non-spoiler review. We definitely want to get something out there for you guys who are interested in it, or are thinking about going or on the fence, go check it out if you want to see some action or whatever. Some of the movies we can compare this to that kind of came to my mind a little bit was Sucker Punch, because there's some scenes in Sucker Punch where Baby is, for example, just going through these like action scenes.
True.
So Hardcore Henry's kind of like that sometimes, just not in the dream sequences. Our Hardcore Henry, he's just basically going through his action sequences for the sake of action for the most part.
Sucker Punch I did not like, but I see what you mean when you say that.
Right, and that's why some people might not like Hardcore Henry, because kind of those forced action sequences. And like I said, we'll get into that in our spoiler review. Another movie that kind of came to my mind that I thought it might be like a little bit was Drive with Ryan Gosling. It's not really like Drive, I don't think. There are some ultra graphic scenes, and sometimes the plot in Drive isn't really all that defined. It leaves it open to your interpretation, I think.
Right.
Hardcore Henry's like that sometimes. That's the only real comparison I really saw to Drive. I didn't realize, Karen, until basically the end credits scene. We were doing quick research on this too, but Hardcore Henry was made possible by Indiegogo contributors.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, and to kind of end this non-spoiler review, not to drag on and on here for forever about Hardcore Henry, I think that's really cool that the movie did get made with that support. And hopefully, to me, the legacy of Hardcore Henry going forward, you may see more movies like this build on what's happened here. And figure out a way to have that first-person experience with a little bit more storytelling, a little bit more purposeful action.
Right, I agree.
And add to it. So we could see another movie like this come out maybe 2 years from now and just build on what's happened here. Because there have been first-person movies.
There have been.
Just not a lot.
Just not a lot, exactly.
Right. And I just remember, too, that one of the movies that this compared it to was Kingsman and The Raid. And I think with The Raid, it benefited from having that third-person action. And Hardcore Henry, it's kind of hard to follow along with that a little bit.
It is.
So the last thing I want to talk about, Karen, before we end this non-spoiler review is you're a girl, and I think I want to get your opinion on this because, for the most part, I think Hardcore Henry is definitely a guy flick. It's an action flick. Did you enjoy it from your point of view, as not just a movie fan or whatever, but say something to the ladies out there? Are they going to enjoy it? Should they tell their bews here? should they tell their bays, hey, look, I'm going to skip this one. You go with your friends. What's your take on it?
Well, there are a lot of girls like me who love action, who like also the violence, and everything like that, or even like blood everywhere. But for this film, like if you're a girl that just likes story, or if you like more suspense, mystery, here we do see towards the end of the movie there is a little bit of a twist. You could say, okay, that you will get a twist, but that's it. And if you're not into the whole, let's say, kind of like science, this movie does involve science a lot with the experiments, who Henry really is. Is he a robot? Is he a cyborg? If you're not into any of that, then girls, this movie is not for you. So, but for me, I liked it. I thought it was okay, some scenes, but to me, it's definitely not a masterpiece.
All right, I think final verdict here, Karen. From A to F, I give Hardcore Henry a B. Because I think I respect what it's trying to do. I think it accomplished what it was trying to do, which makes it make a fast-paced movie from a first-person perspective. If you look at it from that point of view, Hardcore Henry was very successful, and it totally has my respect. I give it a solid B on a scale of 5 stars. I give it a 2.5 for that. It's missing some plot. It's missing some plot and storytelling, but I think it makes up for it in action, and it's very creative in some points.
Okay, I agree with that grade. I'll go ahead and give it a B minus on everything. It definitely did try, and who knows, maybe if there is a sequel, then next time maybe they'll add more plot points here. Cool.
All right, Mega Moviegoers, that concludes our review, our non-spoiler review for Hardcore Henry. Go ahead and keep an eye out for our spoiler review of Hardcore Henry. Should be out here in a couple hours, and then we'll make sure we add an annotation here at the bottom of the screen. All right, Mega Moviegoers, we're in the midst of one of the best summers coming up here for movies. Keep it locked here on our channel. Check our website, www.megamovienews.com, or Instagram @megamovienews for all breaking news and information, because Valiant Karen and I are going to be covering it for you guys all summer long. Valiant Karen, so many great movies coming out.
Right, definitely more hardcore movies to come.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. See ya.
Bye.